Remember that? The Way, a huge song from Fastball through the spring and summer of 1998. It stayed at number 1 on the modern rock charts for 7 weeks and number 1 on the Canadian singles charts for a while. The album was called All the Pain Money Can Buy, and the track was inspired by a real elderly couple, Leela and Raymond Howard, who went missing on their way to a cowboy event in Texas. And they were found 2 weeks later in a ravine hundreds of miles off course, someplace in Arkansas. Fastball is still together, by the way. They have 5 albums out, and they still play gigs through Texas and the rest of the U.S. There's a look back to 1998, and we'll have more music from another year next time. And coming in just a sec, a brief history of the concept of selling out.
More of The Secret History of Rock coming up. Back to The Secret History of Rock with Alan Cross.
The subject of selling out is very tricky. The most basic definition of selling out is when the pursuit of money compromises, corrupts, or otherwise interrupts the pursuit of art and beauty and goodness. But that's an awfully broad definition that can be applied in a billion different, highly subjective ways. At one extreme, taking money for any kind of art is perverse. At the other, well, anything and everything has its price, high or low. Let's go through some case studies, and you can decide for yourself whether or not any selling out occurred, okay? We'll begin with The Clash. When they appeared in 1976, they had this image of being populist punk rebels with working-class socialist politics. Many saw what The Clash stood for as being completely incompatible with capitalism, and that included the record industry. Yet, as The Clash were building their For the People stance, they were the subject of a very fierce bidding war among some very large labels. And on January 25th, 1977, at the very height of punk rock in the UK, they signed a worldwide recording contract with CBS Records, one of the majors, for £100,000. Other bands and other punks saw this as nothing less than a betrayal, an act of collusion with the enemy. Sniff and Glue, which was the big punk fanzine at the time, declared, and this is a quote, "Punk died the day The Clash signed to CBS." But wait, let's look at it from The Clash's side. They were very, very poor. They were living in a rundown squat with almost no heat. They didn't even have any money for food. And at one point, they resorted to eating the paste they used to stick up their gig posters like some kind of porridge. And this was a terrible contract that they signed. The Clash got screwed over on touring expenses and recording expenses and all sorts of other things. Then they had to justify what they had done to the punk community. They'd say things like, "This is the only way to get our music and our message out there to a worldwide audience." Or things like, "We're going to subvert the system from within." But no matter how hard the Clash tried to overcome this stigma, there were still people who hated them for selling out. Even after the band put out double and triple albums at cut-rate prices that deeply screwed the band financially when it came to royalties, they could not convince some of their constituency that they were, in fact, genuine punks. Was the punk world being unfair? Well, probably, but like I said, selling out is completely in the eye of the beholder.